Welcome to the Select Star Podcast, your resource for innovative technology, developer topics, and more. Here's your host, Margot McCabe from the HarperDB team.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Select Star Podcast. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Today, we are speaking with Sai, who is a technical lead at Twilio, and also a speaker and a couple other cool roles that she's held. So thank you so much, Sai, for joining today.
Thank you, Margot, for having me here. Thanks, everyone, for listening in.
Yes, and yeah, so glad to have you. Where are you calling in from today?
I live in San Jose, so I'm working from home, dialing in from San Jose.
Okay, nice. So not too far from us over here in Colorado.
Yes.
Awesome. So I know today we're going to be talking a little bit about event-driven architectures. I know that's a topic that you've been speaking about and interested in lately. But before we dive into all of that, we'd love to just hear a little bit about you, your background, kind of your journey in tech.
Yeah. So I am from India, born and brought up in India, and I did my master's in computer science in Arizona State University, and then I got a job in Bay Area, and then I've been with Twilio ever since. And before my master's, I worked at Yahoo, and in between, I worked with AWS and Cerner, and here I am at Twilio working as a tech lead right now for A2P compliance.
Okay, awesome. And what made you choose Arizona for the master's? I have a lot of family that's out there. I know it can be quite intense in the summers, but I know that's a great school.
Yeah, it was definitely a great school. So that was that was my most important focus. Other than that, I didn't want to go to a snowy area. But
yeah, that's fair.
Snow would have been better than sun.
That's fair. And so then looking at where you are now, sort of from a high level, what is it that you're working on in your role at Twilio?
I work on A2P compliance for messaging. And messaging, for those of you who don't know Twilio is a cloud communications platform where we provide APIs for email, then messaging, and voice, and lots of other products. And for messaging, I'm working on the compliance side of things right now at Twilio. And that's pretty much it. So we are putting effort into ensuring that all the customers who send messages have their use cases registered and reasoning for sending messages registered and everything. So this is an attempt to reduce spam and telecommunication ecosystem right now.
Okay, got it. That sounds interesting for sure. And it's from your track record, as you mentioned, Yahoo, AWS, where you are now, it sounds like you tend to like to work for the larger sort of tech giants. Have you ever worked for a smaller company, or have you kind of always been with like these larger organizations?
I mean, that's an interesting observation. I think I've always worked for these like mid-tier to like high-tier companies so far. But yeah.
Okay. So you must be enjoying it to some extent.
Definitely enjoy the perks.
So what do you like about being tech lead? Is that, was that a goal for you to get into a position like that? Did you kind of fall into it, or?
I definitely, there are a lot of things that I enjoy about being a tech lead, and it was definitely a goal for me to be in this role because I always had a passion for mentoring, especially in terms of technical technical area. And in my perspective, the best part about like being a tech lead is I get to zoom out and have like a bird's eye view of what everyone's doing. Like everyone's focused on their work, but then I get to have this view of how you can sort of like have like this big picture, the future big picture, and ensure that everyone's work sort of aligns to that big picture. And also, since I'd be working so closely with different people, I get to learn a lot of things, new things, cool things that they figure out. And so it's a win-win.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it instead of focusing on like one very specific project, it's cool that, yeah, as you said, you got to have your hands in a lot of different buckets and get visibility into different areas of the organization and kind of make sure everything is working together simultaneously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's one thing that I like about being at such a small company is sort of for that reason, is like that we get to wear a lot of hats and be involved in a lot of different decisions. So it's cool to hear that there, you know, there still are those roles in larger organizations. You just have to find where the fit is and kind of like where to put the best use of your skill set.
I mean, I on my day-to-day basis, like talk to product partners and then talk to my team and figure out like the happy medium that works out for both our team and the product. So you do tend to put on different roles, different hats in this role.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess pivoting, you know, from just the day-to-day, I know you mentioned a focus on working with people and kind of talking about how to build easier or better event-driven architectures and why that's even a topic that's important. So I'd love to hear sort of your high level on that, and then like dive into maybe some specific tactics or tools that can help with that. And I'm sure a lot of this comes from maybe that you've seen the other side of it of event-driven architectures that maybe are built poorly or not so efficiently. So just kind of curious, like how that all comes together.
Sounds good. I mean, I can start off just giving a small example that probably is very relevant in our day-to-day lives right now.
Yeah.
When you like pick up your phone and order food on DoorDash, you would have like trigger this event asynchronous system in the backend. And in terms of when I say event driven, like this entire asynchronous system. So when you place an order on DoorDash for your pizza, you won't immediately get a response saying, "Hey, your pizza's on the way," right? So you'll constantly get slowly getting notifications saying your order is being prepared by the restaurant, your delivery driver is on the way, and blah blah blah. So it's slowly happening in the background asynchronously, and there are a lot of events that are happening right now, like restaurant acknowledging that we've received the order, or like restaurant sending an event to us to DoorDash saying, "Hey, I finished working on your order," or basically some signals from our delivery partners and stuff like that. So there are a lot of events that are coming into the system, and like for a huge end-to-end pipeline, for example, if you just take DoorDash, there are different teams. There are different teams for handling user experience, some for handling the delivery partners experience, some for restaurant. So there are a lot of these lot of these teams and lot of events, and it will easily when you build a system, it will easily evolve into this complex maze very quickly, and that's what we should try to avoid. And there are like some these good practices. There are frameworks that will help you in terms of event driven systems or asynchronous architecture that you can leverage right from the beginning. And yeah, instead of building when you build without these, it'll be simple in the beginning, but it'll be hard to scale your system, and that's what my experience has been.
Okay, interesting. So it sounds like, you know, with most things in tech, what, you know, when you're starting a project, when you're building an app, whatever it is that you're doing, that it's really important to look at how you're building it, what's in your tech stack, the order of how things are going, which way data is pushing before building anything out, because it can be probably a lot more difficult to make changes later on, you know, once things are actually live or in production, as opposed to like really doing that due diligence up front to see what would be most efficient.
Exactly. I mean, picking the right framework in this case, I wanted to talk about like workflow orchestrators, like considering workflow orchestrators potentially for your like framework that would definitely ease your burden, like development burden, right from the beginning. And that has been our experience.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And so is that something that you have responsibility of with with what we're doing in a current role or in a previous role is kind of helping to guide how those architectures are built, or is that something you've just noticed like separately outside of work?
No, that's something that we noticed within work. Twilio has a lot of asynchronous systems a lot of Twilio APIs are not immediate. When you say send a message, we will send you a notification later that your message has been sent. So it's very similar to how DoorDash would do it when you order your food. So I mean, in our modern, right now, there are in these modern applications, so many of the use cases that we interact with daily are asynchronous in nature.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you're looking at it, if you were going to give someone advice that is building a similar asynchronous architecture, or looking at, how they're going to, have that communication from their app to the users, to whatever it is, what would you say is like a either step-by-step process, or like the things that they need to do up front with due diligence? What would be the most important things to take into consideration?
So from my experience of it is, if you're building an event-driven architecture or like an asynchronous system, anywhere where you're potentially using a queue, consider using workflow orchestrators. And so in terms of our DoorDash example, like workflow orchestrators sort of help you in lots of ways. For example, it'll help you manage your state. In case of our DoorDash example, your state of the food, let's say you ordered a pizza and your pizza goes through pending order to order in making, order picked up, and order on the way. So there are different states that the pizza will go through, and a workflow orchestrator will take care of navigating the code through the right states, so you don't have to manually go ahead and configure if it was previously in this state, move to this state, and so on and so forth. Like workflow orchestrators sort of take that away from you and make your life easy. And also in terms of resiliency, in an ideal world, your pizza goes through different stages and gets delivered to your home right away without problems. But in our real world, we often tend to see issues are acknowledged that was missed from our restaurant, or billing didn't go through, or payment didn't go through, and stuff like that. So resiliency is like a really important factor when building asynchronous systems. And workflow orchestrators actually make your life easy by having out of the box configurations for retries, error handlers, error handling, and then failure logic for example, if your billing isn't going through for like 2 hours, even after your pizza is placed, probably you don't want to keep retrying it and just notify the customer, because, there's no point delivering a pizza 2 hours after it was placed. So it'll sort of help you with state management, resiliency, and since it takes care of a lot of things like metrics and tracing, logging out of the box by itself, your code gets simpler. And once your code gets simpler, maintainability will be easier, and onboarding folks to the team and everything will be much easier.
Okay, that's interesting. That makes sense. And would you say that have you ever seen like some very obvious mistakes that people make when they're doing, I guess probably the opposite of what you're recommending, but I'm just curious, like if there's any sort of big mistakes or things to avoid, or even if someone has already built out an architecture and it is really complex and confusing, like what types of ways that you can kind of reverse that and step back and make improvements without having to redo the entire thing?
Oh, that's a really good question. So essentially, if you see yourself in a state where you're handling multiple queues for like a system, or queues that are handling different events from different sources, you would probably be in a position where the code is sort of all over the place and it's not orchestrated in one single place. I mean, if you find yourself in this situation, probably you can slowly migrate to using a workflow orchestrator. And it need not be a complete table flip where you just stop everything that you're doing and then go ahead and re-architect your system. It need not be that way. So you can incrementally add a workflow orchestrator into the existing code base that you have. Let's say, again, going back to our pizza, let's say you already have this entire DoorDash entire pipeline end to end without using a workflow orchestrator, with like using a bunch of queues, and you're handling all the events, state management, resiliency, everything yourselves. If you are in that situation, and you just need to now add a new feature. Let's say you want to, or when you want to add priority delivery for your customers. This is a new feature. So you can build this new feature out using a workflow orchestrator, and integrate it with the existing code. So it need not be an entire re-architecture before you actually start seeing progress. So just add new pieces of code using workflow orchestrators, integrate it slowly within your system, and then you will see changes in your system where the metrics are coming out of the box, you're seeing better logging. So that'll sort of motivate you into moving more and more towards workflow orchestrator. That has been my experience.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. Well, and I think that's probably a relief for people to hear about, a lot of, like, that's something that we talk with our partners and customers about too, is, in different contexts, but just a lot of people hear something and their mind immediately goes to like, oh, I need to rip and replace what I have, or like, I need to completely start over. And I think there's almost always some different shortcuts you can do. And the small, as you said, incremental changes that you can make that don't require like stopping production or messing everything up, or like extreme costs or anything like that. Like, that's why there's so many awesome tools out there and strategies to kind of make things like that easy, because obviously technology is always changing and people are probably constantly changing their strategy and their tech stack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who has time to do a complete system overhaul?
Yeah.
Everyone is stuck in this fast-paced development cycle. And yeah, I don't think we'll have the luxury of like stepping back and zooming out and then re-architecting a system.
Right. Exactly. So are there any specific workflow orchestrator tools that you work with or that you recommend, or even outside of that, like any other types of just technologies that kind of help you with this whole process, whether it's the planning part or like the task automation or anything like that?
Yeah, there are a lot of workflow orchestrators in the market right now, and especially a lot of them are open source also. So essentially, exactly what's going on. And I can talk about some of the workflow orchestrators that I've used or had experience with.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So for like open source side of things, there is Apache Airflow, which as far as I know has been there for a very long time, and it's a very active open source community. So there's constant improvisations that are happening there, and also it's a very active and welcoming open source community, and it has a lot of integrations. And probably Apache Airflow is a good choice for you if your tasks are mostly towards like data pipeline. In my experience, data pipeline tasks are really smooth when integrated with Apache Airflow. Essentially, if something in the pipeline fails, you know exactly how many times to retry. You have logging of why it failed, who failed, and how many times it ran, or schedule pipeline runs automatically out of the box, stuff like that. Those are the things that Apache Airflow has. And also Apache Airflow has, if you're not into hosting Apache Airflow yourselves, then there is astronomer.io that provides you like a managed Apache Airflow cluster. And the next one, which I also extensively use, is Temporal. And Temporal is also open source community, and Temporal is slightly different from Apache Airflow. And my experience has been that if it's a more business use case with a lot of branching logic, for example, in case of DoorDash, let's say you have to have like a lot of branching logic that says, hey, if the delivery driver reports like a car breakdown or something like that, do this. If restaurant sends you a message saying, the order is getting delayed by like another 30 minutes, do this and stuff like that. When there's a lot of business logic branching kind of things, or you have like these long running workflows where your workflows run for almost like 3 months or 4 months. At that point of time, temporal, from my perspective, is a better choice. And there is also Amazon provides the proprietary solution, which is AWS provides step functions, which is another workflow orchestrator. So if you're already in AWS ecosystem and you're integrated with Lambdas and you're integrated with DynamoDB events, like DynamoDB triggers or streams, or already using SQS, if you're already in the AWS ecosystem, step functions make a lot of sense for you. And also there are other workflow orchestrators like Argo, Netflix has Conductor, and so on and so forth. A lot of good options out there. And I think every choice is slightly, like every option that there is slightly different from another. And it'll really help solve like a particular use case. So based on your use case, you can probably go choose one of those.
Yeah, that it sounds like you're highly knowledgeable on the topic, and I understand why this is something you like speaking about. But that's all really helpful, and I like how you've explained at the end, like this is really based on sort of the use case as opposed to maybe your preference, or like saying that one is the best. That's
absolutely.
Something we say a lot when talking about like databases and data management technologies, is like no one is trying to say that they're the end all be all that can do everything under the sun. It's more about figuring out what your specific needs and requirements are and kind of what the best fit is for that. So it's awesome to have so many tools available to you through the open source community. And it sounds like you've tried a lot of different of these tools. So I can see why you're so knowledgeable on it. And did you say that you'll be, or that you have spoken about this topic elsewhere at a conference or something? Or I might have.
Oh yeah, I have spoken about it previously at a conference, and I will be speaking about this in another conference that's coming up in Bay
Oh,
Area.
cool. Which one is that?
It is Developer Week. Actually, yeah, it is Developer Week. I don't exactly remember the name. It's called World Conference 2023.
Okay. Yeah, I know that they have different events throughout the year. My
Yeah,
colleague spoke at one that was in either January or February in Oakland, and then I know they have like different ones throughout the year. So that's awesome.
yeah, it's the World Festival.
Okay. Awesome. Well, congrats. That's exciting.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's all really interesting. And I am happy to be learning more about this topic, because I think it's something that like people have touched on and haven't, I haven't had the full grasp of like how important it can really be to build this out. As with anything, in the software development world, like there can be so many nuances and so many little details that are important to pay attention to. And so I always love like having people that are passionate about different topics like that.
I mean, this is how we're building in modern asynchronous applications at this point in time. And it really, really makes a huge difference, because I've been on both sides, without using one and with using one. So yeah, trust me when I say you should totally consider it when you're building a system like this.
Awesome. And so I was going to say, that kind of leads me into sort of a question of, are you a part of any communities or like any blogging platforms where folks, or social media where folks can connect with you, or involved in the tech community anywhere outside of work?
Oh, of course. I'm available on LinkedIn, definitely open to chat on LinkedIn.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's good to know. I'll be sure to put the link for that in the show notes, just so that if people have any follow-up questions or anything, or want to connect, they can. I always like to ask that, because some people, they don't really want like an open invitation for just anyone reaching out, just because they have like so much going on. They don't want to make a promise that that they'll be able to reply to anyone. But I think it's always helpful to have, at least one sort of resource or area where people can connect. Because I think our different listeners resonate with like different things that people say in different episodes. So it's always fun.
Of course, definitely happy to help you if you're if you're solving like an asynchronous problem, or if you're building the system. I'd love to hop on a call and maybe we can brainstorm together. So definitely open to chatting.
Awesome. Well, this has been really fun chatting with you. I appreciate it. And unless there's anything else, any final words that you want to leave us with, happy to kind of sign off and excited to keep in touch.
Of course. Thanks everyone for listening in. That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Select Star, your resource for innovative technology and developer topics. You can find our episodes in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Google, RSS, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share. You can learn more about HarperDB at harperdb.io.